Welcome to What Would Paula and Martha Say? I'm Paula Langeth-Ryan.
And I'm Martha Creek, and I'm really interested to see what Martha's going to say.
So am I. And today what we're going to do is we're going to explore what I call my core beliefs, which are 6 of them, and what Martha calls
some summary of those, and can't call them core beliefs, but I can say that I have taken every issue in the world and summed it up to 3, which are questions of power, value, and safety. And when those basic needs are not met, we can do some very interesting things.
Amen to that. And my core beliefs are 6 beliefs that I think keep us from remembering who we are, which are abandonment, guilt, powerlessness, lack or limitation, unworthiness, and that sense that we're dead or dying off. So, shall we dive in?
Let's go.
Which one shall we explore first?
Abandonment.
Abandonment. My fear is Martha's going to leave me up here on the stage all by myself. That's my fear. Yeah. So abandonment, for me, means any place where we feel all alone in the world. And, ties in with all the rest, because I think, the sense of, I'm all alone, no one likes me, that kind of lack and limitation, unworthiness, they all play with each other. But for me, I think a lot of people experience abandonment in relationships. They experience abandonment in their communities, in their families, and even just in themselves. I always like to say to people, when they have, I have so many abandonment issues. People always abandon me. They always let me down. They always, say they'll be here forever and then they leave, or you'll be with this job forever and then they fire you. And I said, well, who abandons you the most? And I got to go look in the mirror.
Yeah. Well, that's my take on it, is that abandonment is really, the pain of abandonment is self-abandonment. And we've called any time even routine, normal things happen, if it's not on our timing or not according to what I was hoping or believing or wishing, we label it abandonment. Like if a marriage ends, it's like, that's abandonment. I've been abandoned, versus no, that was a marriage ending.
Yeah. And I had an expectation I had an expectation of what the marriage was supposed to be and what it would look like.
Yes. Which is 100% fantasy based. So we're living in a relationship to the Princess Bride fairy tales, myths about marriage, instead of on a firm, solid foundation of reality, which is why people won't let me do their marriage vows anymore. So I'm not invited to do their ceremonies, because my marriage vows would be much more reality based.
Our marriage vows were great. I like you pretty much. Let's see how it goes. Yes, Let's go get ice cream. That was it. That was the entire vow.
I like you at times.
Yeah.
And when I do, I'll be so enamored with you, I can't get close enough. And then at the times I don't like you, I cannot get far enough.
That's right.
And quick
I'm changing
away
the locks.
from you. Exactly. Yeah. And hopefully we can work more in a middle ground of that, instead of such a polarity. And one of my friends used to say, Martha, I just want to meet a woman when we disagree or when it gets bristly, that she can just move to the other end of the couch instead of divorcing me.
Yeah.
Which is the extreme of that. And then if we buy into this abandonment, then when you go back, we're traumatized as children, and we can trace it back through mental health work and emotional processing work and say, where were you abandoned? And it's like, she was supposed to pick me up at 3:00 and she wasn't there. And it's like, that is not abandonment. That she didn't pick me up at 3:00. And it has no compassion for the person that wasn't there to pick them up. That is, in God knows what kind of a day, God knows what kind of a shape.
Yeah, or what was happening. Yeah.
Yes, that it had nothing to do with abandoning a child, but a child could not discern that. Yeah. Like what literally happened was kind of a run-of-the-mill day for a mother who's cooking on all 6 burners.
Yeah, and I like to make it mean something about me. It's all about me.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean anything about
the
me.
world revolving around me. So I really I question myself and invite others to get a sense of what it would be like if they had no concept of abandonment. and that we literally stop using the term, we literally stop speaking it, and begin to speak in actual and factual terms about somebody wasn't there to pick me up as planned, I was in the house alone for 30 minutes or 30 seconds, which the mind doesn't know that I spent my whole life alone. I was always alone. They were never home, because it'll go dramatize, just to build more story for proof, how it will gather evidence that I was abandoned.
Oh, yeah. I used to teach a course. We did this thing at my Florida center that was called the Magnificent Manifesting Force, and it was a 3-year program. And one of the things you had to do was tell your story of where these core beliefs came from in your life. So you had to, if you hadn't already made up the stories, which you had to make up. But what was fascinating was the overarching story was, my parents were never there for me. And then it wouldn't matter if you'd been raised in poverty and your parents were working 6 jobs and, they were addicts of some sort or whatever it was. Or you had the most amazing parents that were always present, and they were, the den mothers and the Cub Scouts, and, they were the softball team leaders and 4-H club leaders and all this stuff. The story was still the same.
That's right.
My parents weren't there for me.
Yes. Which is AKA abandonment.
Yeah.
And some flavor of it.
And I will use whatever happened to shore up that story.
You got it.
Yeah.
And to get deeper and deeper and deeper into it. So, we hold the key out of our own hell for this, and to really liberate ourselves if we want to know the truth more than we want to perpetuate this kind of dramatic story and then to send it on 7 generations down, where then any time, which is really a 2-year-old speaking, that I'm going to call it abandonment the second I don't get what I want.
Exactly.
The second you're not on my time schedule, if you don't do everything you said you would do, then you've abandoned me. I cannot bear it.
Yeah, not even everything you said you would do, everything I wanted you to do. Because I'll have that expectation. No, you said this. No, I didn't. I never said that I was going to do that for you. You wanted me to do that for you, and that's different.
And believed what you made up.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is more fantasy based. So it comes across sometimes, Paula, as cold-hearted, like you weren't abandoned, you don't know what it's like, and it's like, well, it's true. I wasn't abandoned, and I'm not denying the pain or the fear that would be there if your parents weren't there to pick you up, or that you was, left at home unexpectedly or something like that. And it's not abandonment.
Yeah. Even if you were left at the doorstep of the church as a baby, that's not abandonment. That was your parents deciding to leave you somewhere where they thought you would be discovered.
Cared for.
And cared for.
That's right. That's right. And that's
but we'll tell the story.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's a way different flag to wave.
And can we have the courage to change our mind about it in order to, like you said, create that what you really want in your life? Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? You want to hang on to this?
Because, and it's like I don't like to use the word problem, but if there are problems, then that's the problem with that it is infinite. It continues to perpetuate itself. So then relationship after relationship, job after job, neighborhood after neighborhood, anytime it goes that way, which is a normal, natural way, jobs in, marriages in, relationships in, houses blow down, that it's going to have to be framed as something besides, I've been abandoned here.
How about my story didn't go as I planned?
Yes, the truth.
The truth, yeah, there we go.
And even it could go just as we plan, and we still don't like it. Because the mind is recreating itself, and it's insatiable. The wanting is insatiable. So the second we get what we want, I could say, I want an apology. I want an apology. I want an apology. Then they're like, I'm sincerely sorry. And it's like, well, that's too late. You should have done it 20 years ago.
So when we tell people, like Cooper has done that, my son has done that, where he's been like, I just want you to apologize. And we'll explain to him, my apologizing won't make you feel better. You think it will. And I just want you to say you're sorry. I'm like, but what would I say I'm sorry for? I'm sorry for you having an expectation that I didn't meet. Why would I be sorry for that?
Wow.
To be able to, and not in an unkind way, but just, well, wait a minute. You see, you want me to change my behavior so you'll feel better. If I would just apologize,
Yeah,
you'll
and you're
stop being
giving-
hysterical.
Yeah, and giving your power over to me that says I'm not going to be content or happy or at peace.
I can never be happy
until somebody apologizes to me. Versus you don't subject yourself to that, honey, because somewhere along the way somebody won't. I can say sincerely I'm sorry. That there's upset here, whatever it is, but that's not going to help you in the long run.
But isn't that what we teach our kids at school? Oh, say you're sorry.
Yeah.
For tipping Johnny's milk over on his head.
Yes. Yes.
Why am I sorry for creating a food fight? I wanted some drama.
Well, and then it's not true.
Yeah.
Even it's a placating or whatever. Like
I'm sorry I punched
sorry.
you, Martha.
Exactly.
But the minute they're gone, I'm doing it again. I'll meet you out back.
Yes, which could very clearly go that way.
Oh, yeah.
Like that kind of anger that's suppressed and that kind of frustration that's thwarted wanting.
Well, especially when you have an adult mandating now you have to say,
controlling.
Okay, so clearly you guys are having an issue. Perhaps today we don't play together. And we're fighting over the electronics. If you want to play together, no more electronics today.
Yes.
Yeah, there's simple solutions.
Yes.
But the minute it's you're wrong, they're good, you make right with them.
Well,
and
then even
apologize.
looking at a parent, which is what we did as kids, like you want a coloring book, I've got it. And it's like, then we can't work it out between us and just go run and get mama. Then mama likely is going to come in there and no heat on mothers. Like, God almighty, I bow to anybody that has the grit to be a mother. That to say, you take the book, you take that one, you take the colors, so that mama settles it for us. Then we never get any capacity really to work that out.
Yeah, be nice to your sister.
Yes.
Okay, she poked me in the eyes 3 times before I smacked her.
Yes, more to the story.
I knew a woman who, when her kids would come in, would say, is anybody bleeding? No. Is anything broken? No. Is anybody missing? No. Sounds like a kid problem. Go away.
Get out of here. Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's pretty good.
Well, that's like you go figure out a way to work it out, and they absolutely will. They absolutely will. Even if it takes some tussling and some rolling around in the dirt or something, they'll work it out.
Yeah.
And then because when mama stops mediating, settling the arguments, then teachers, and then eventually judges and lawyers, attorneys, and courtrooms, because we didn't really ever develop a capacity to do that. And that we're still, if we continue to look through this same framework of abandonment, then we're shocked, traumatized, upset, unspeakably anytime some of this happens. Yeah. Versus, this is kind of not all that big a deal here. This is really more manageable.
Otherwise, we think the system abandoned us, or these adults are abandoning us because now they're making us make our own way through this.
Yes. And
no, you have to fix this. If you're not fixing this, you've abandoned me.
Absolutely. And then eventually, and I see it nearly every day, that it's this fear that God has abandoned us. Which is what the roots of abandonment really are. Mm-hmm. This notion that we're separate from what created us, whatever you call God, life, universe, mind.
For the longest time, I called God Jiminy Cricket.
Whatever, yeah. Well, that would keep you out of some of that BS about it.
It was great.
Versus that we mistake, that we lose awareness that I'm actually being breathed. Yeah. So something is breathing me. And then it's like, then we set God up to be some Santa Claus. Then as long as I ask for it, I'm going to get it. And the second I don't get what I asked for, then...
Yeah, I'm going to pray to God and He's going to bring me a brand new...
God's abandoned me too. Yeah. So that's in the depths of all this too.
Oh, yeah.
So it's far-reaching and deep and wide, this notion. And I'm absolutely convinced and inspired to come out of it. To take down every notion that abandonment is possible. Yeah. That it's not even possible.
So I have a skill, I don't know if you have a skill, that I share with people. But I tell them to get in the bathtub if they need to. But to bring up the story, the overarching story of abandonment. And then feel it. Literally walk themselves through it. And then say, okay, so what if that's not the reason I feel abandoned? So they sort of have to toss that story out. Pick another reason. Pick another story you've got. And they have to just pull them up until there's no more stories. And then I ask them, now tell me why you're abandoned. Yeah. And I'm not going to give away the end of the movie on that because it's fascinating what happens. But that's a story tool I use. What do you use for folks in that?
Well, to ask, where did you get that's abandonment? So what was it actually? Then it's more like what was
The
actual
fact.
factual. They didn't. And then there's no depth of feeling to that. Like, well, that's what really happened. She didn't pick me up as scheduled, or she dropped me off on a doorstep, or she gave me away for adoption, or whatever it was. But there's something about a clear distinction between facts and feelings that keeps us from being caught up in that web of feelings. I also would ask them, what are the consequences if they continue to play this? If you continue to approach the world and look at the world through a framework of that you're the abandoned one, or that you've been abandoned, what are the consequences to your own life? And then you've laid them out here.
Yeah.
So if you proceed with this, then it's very consequential. Then you now, with this kind of new understanding and insight, are party to this, to keep this torture going, to keep me in a torture chamber on this. And then eventually, what would it be like if you simply didn't have a reference for abandonment? If there was no word, no such thing as that, how would you be with what happened, which doesn't diminish it? It doesn't make it okay, doesn't condone it. Just how could you be with what actually happened, literally happened, if you had no reference for abandonment?
Nice.
And it's a breakthrough with another way to look at this.
Perfect.
And some rather suffer
Then heal their abandonment.
than to have, and their notions about that. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if you'd like to work on your abandonment issues and either of our ways of doing this resonate with you, check out our coaching offerings that we offer at marthacreek.com or paulalangethryan.com.